Well, the Fed is back in the news with a new super duper improved mandate. They are no longer going to target a 2% inflation. They're going to target an average of 2% inflation, meaning that if inflation has been running below 2% and it goes above, they'll let it be there without acting or reacting to it to kind of keep it on average at 2%. Of course, this is definitely going to be a game changer and solve every single problem we've ever had. Uh, Now, I get it, being a little sarcastic here, I get it. I know inflation is bad, but I also know deflation is worse. To give you an idea of the unpleasantness of inflation, no one likes to pay more for things. Uh, I put some numbers here showing you what inflation looks like over a 10-year period of time, given different inflation numbers. You can see that compounding definitely has a big impact. So as numbers get bigger, it gets more and more painful. The key point here is that inflation is painful, right? Your purchasing power decreases, and your wages may or may not keep up with it. Now, again, deflation is even worse, right? So here the problem is we don't want to have this vicious negative feedback loop where prices are falling, so people are anticipating these falls and will hold off on purchases, right? So there's this demand shock. Because of the demand shock, employers need to let people go. Because people are let go, our ability to purchase things falls. And because we are purchasing less, employers think, well, maybe I need to lower prices more. Then demand falls again. We have this vicious feedback loop here. The important thing to remember here, though, is it's this problem that's we're worried about, whether or not we're in deflation, right? So we could be in an inflationary environment where this isn't the case and we'd be okay. We're still purchasing things, or we could be, in a inflationary environment where these types of things are happening. So the problem is this loop, not necessarily inflation or deflation. Certainly, there are innovations which make things cheaper, which are good for society. So I can imagine and we can think about ideas and things where deflation is a healthy sign of innovation and technology and changes of that nature. The question for me is, why is 2%, exactly 2%, the magic number for the Fed? Look, I'm going to argue first off that if there was a magic number, it wouldn't be stable. It would change depending on demographics, the country you live in, the kind of things you're purchasing, etc. I would also argue that if we are changing calculation methodologies, then if there was a magic number, it would change as we change the calculation methodologies. And as a reminder, we are not doing that. I have a couple of videos you see down here where I describe these calculation methodologies and the impact it's had on the reported inflation numbers, which do not get changed as we change the calculation. Also, again, whatever the number is, if there was a magic number, it's not the number that really matters. It's the behaviors, what the economy is doing. I also, I just pulled up magic number, and here it says 3 is the magic number. So maybe, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 25, maybe it's -1. I don't know. Just have a problem with the insistence on central banks saying that 2 is the magic number. Now, what lessons can we learn? First off, is inflation actually too low right now? That's what's driving it, right? They're saying inflation is too low. We can't get that 2% target. So we need to do something to get it higher. We're going to say we're going to let it go higher. But we don't see the negative consequences of inflation being too low. We don't see this negative feedback loop. So I'm going to argue, why are they worried? It really isn't too low right now. I'm going to argue number 2, that the Fed really has no idea what the magic number is, if we should be targeting a number, if this new fancy, we're going to take the average of 2%, if that's going to do anything. And let's be honest, the Fed has already done way too much in terms of distorting markets. They're flooding the market with low interest rates. They're buying bonds. They're basically making a market that isn't real anymore, right? They're totally distorting things. And if you watch those 2 videos, I'm going to argue, and I'm going to keep harping on this, that if inflation was in fact too high in the 1970s, then it's way too high now. It doesn't matter that we're saying it's 1% inflation. The calculation methodology has changed, right? And so we're not being honest with ourselves is my point there. And finally, I'm not really sure what this change does. I think if the Fed does anything, it changes the mentality of the population. If we think that they're doing something that's somehow helping, even though they're not, I guess that is something. Anyway, just food for thoughts. But I'm a little critical of this. I just don't see the point, and I don't, and I think we give them too much credit for, being all and great and powerful. Anyway, thanks so much.